I, female, 15, am stuck in an impossible situation between my sister and my best friend and don't know what to do. Throwaway, because my friend uses Reddit and I don't want her to find this. So I live with my older sister Ellie, female, 28, who's been taking care of me since our parents died in a car crash when I was 7. She dropped out during her last year of architecture school to become my guardian, giving up this really big scholarship and everything. I've never told anyone this before, not even my therapist, but the accident happened because my mom was driving to get me medicine when I had a fever that day. So yeah, it was literally my fault they died. Sometimes I have nightmares about it. We live in this tiny 2-bedroom apartment where my room is actually just the dining area with a curtain hung up for privacy. Ellie has a 3-year-old son, Liam, whose dad just left when Liam was 6 months old after finding out Ellie had been hiding how broke we were. She works as an admin assistant during the day and then waitresses 3 nights a week, and she's always exhausted, but never complains. Like sometimes I hear her crying in the shower when she thinks I'm asleep. My best friend Zoe is the only person who truly gets me. Last year on a school trip, I had a really bad panic attack because I saw a car that looked like my parents' car, and she sat with me for hours in the hotel bathroom just holding my hand while I cried. She didn't even make me feel weird about it after. We bonded over both being into art stuff. She plays violin and I sketch. I actually draw a lot while listening to her practice. She's amazing. Here's my problem. Ellie finally got an interview at this fancy architecture firm on Friday at 4 p.m. This job would change our lives. It's like double what she makes now, plus actual benefits. So I wouldn't have to keep pretending I'm not sick when I am because we can't afford doctor visits. But the interview is at exactly the same time as Zoe's first ever solo performance with the youth orchestra. I promised Zoe months ago that I would be there. She's been practicing like crazy and calls me sometimes at midnight freaking out that she's gonna mess up. She always wears this blue hair clip that was her grandma's for performances. The worst part is her parents aren't even coming. Her dad has a whole new family and never shows up for anything, and her mom picked up an extra nursing shift because they need the money. I've tried everything to figure this out. Our regular babysitter has the flu. I called like 5 other sitters who are all busy. Our neighbor, Mrs. Hernandez, already said no, and Ellie says bringing Liam to the interview would look unprofessional and might ruin her chances. Daycare closes at 5, and the interview could go longer. Last night, I tried talking to Ellie about it during dinner. I reminded her about Zoe's concert on Friday at 4. Ellie looked confused, as if she didn't understand why I was bringing it up. I explained that I promised Zoe months ago I'd be there, and even made a poster for her solo. Ellie told me this job could change everything for us and reminded me how tight money is right now. When I suggested bringing Liam to the interview, she said that would be completely unprofessional and they'd never hire her. I mentioned Mrs. Hernandez next door, but Ellie had already asked her and she has a doctor's appointment. I suggested maybe calling Liam's dad just this once, which made Ellie's face harden. She said he doesn't get to pick and choose when to be a dad. I stopped talking after that because I could tell she was stressed, and I felt bad for bringing him up. I'm completely torn. I totally get why Ellie's interview is important. Like, this could literally change our whole lives. But Zoe has been there for me through everything, and I'm the only person she's counting on to be there. She doesn't have anyone else. I feel like Ellie thinks I'm being ungrateful after everything she sacrificed for me. And I'm not. This is important too. And I hate feeling like I have to choose between the 2 most important people in my life. I'm totally fine handling adult problems like this, but sometimes I see kids my age at school whose biggest worry is what to wear to some party, and it just hits me how unfair everything is. I shouldn't have to make these kinds of decisions, you know? Edit. Someone messaged asking why I can't just videotape the performance for Zoe. She specifically asked me to be there in person because she gets really nervous performing and says seeing me in the audience helps her stay calm. I promised her months ago. To clarify about Liam's dad, since a lot of people are asking, he and Ellie weren't married. They dated for about a year before she got pregnant. He seemed super supportive at first, but then when Liam was 6 months old, he found out Ellie had been hiding our financial problems from him. She was too proud to tell him how bad things were. They had a huge fight about it, and he just left. He sends money sometimes, but it's never consistent, and he's only seen Liam like 5 times in 3 years. For everyone saying I should just talk to Zoe and explain, you don't understand. Her parents never come to anything important for her. Her mom works all the time, and her dad has a whole new family now, and she's basically an afterthought. I'm literally the only person she's counting on to be there. I feel sick just thinking about letting her down. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I tried asking if my art teacher could watch Liam. She likes me and has grandkids. But she has to be at the concert too, because she's supervising the art students who designed the program covers. And no, I can't bring Liam with me to the concert because he's 3 and can't sit still for more than like 10 minutes without screaming or running around. Trust me, I thought of everything. Now for the first update. So it's been a week since my last post and everything has completely fallen apart. I mean, completely. I ended up helping Ellie with Liam during her interview. I mean, it's not like I had much of a choice when I really thought about it. We're broke, and this job would literally change our lives. But now Zoe isn't speaking to me, and Ellie basically admitted she resents me, and I can't stop crying. I called Zoe the night before her performance to explain everything. I had worried about it for like 3 days, trying to figure out any possible way I could be there, but nothing worked out. When I called, I tried to sound super cheerful, even though I felt like throwing up, and promised I'd video chat right before she went on and watch the whole thing on live stream. She was just quiet for a long time. And then she just said, whatever, in this voice that was like, you know when someone is definitely not okay but pretending to be. That. I kept apologizing and explaining about Ellie's interview and how important it was, but she just kept saying it's fine over and over, which obviously meant it wasn't fine at all. The day of the performance was a complete disaster from start to finish. Liam was in one of his hyper moods where he literally would not sit still for even 2 seconds. I tried to distract him with finger painting, which was honestly the stupidest idea I've ever had, because he got blue handprints all over my favorite sweater. And then while I was trying to clean that up, he knocked over the water cup, and there was blue water everywhere. I had set up my laptop to watch the live stream, but of course, right when they announced Zoe's solo, Liam started having this epic meltdown because I wouldn't let him smash my laptop. He's obsessed with screens. By the time I got him calmed down with a Pop-Tart and Paw Patrol, Zoe's solo was completely over. I missed the whole thing. The entire thing I promised for months I would be there for. When Ellie got home, she was so happy, it actually made me feel worse. She told me the interview went amazing and that the hiring manager loved her portfolio. She took us for ice cream as a thank you, but I kept checking my phone the whole time. Zoe wasn't answering any of my texts, not even the one where I sent like 17 heart emojis and said, "I'm sure you were amazing," which felt so hollow when I typed it because I didn't even get to see her play. That night, I was scrolling through Instagram and saw these pictures from after the concert. All the orchestra kids were at Pizza Palace celebrating, and Zoe was just standing at the edge looking miserable. She wasn't really smiling and wasn't really part of the group. She was wearing the blue hair clip from her grandma and looked like she'd been crying. It absolutely destroyed me. I tried texting and calling her all weekend, but she ignored everything. She didn't even open my messages. When I saw her at school on Monday, she literally turned around and walked the other way. By Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore and cornered her at her locker. I was like, "Hey, why aren't you answering my texts?" She just kept organizing her books like she couldn't hear me. I touched her shoulder and said, "I'm really sorry about missing your solo." And that's when she finally reacted. She slammed her locker shut so hard that everyone in the hallway turned to look. Her eyes were like full of tears, but also fury. "You were the only person I needed there," she said, and her voice was shaking. I started explaining about Ellie's interview again and how important it was, but she cut me off. She told me she played badly because she kept looking for me and couldn't focus. She messed up during the Allegro part. I tried to tell her, I'm sure it wasn't that bad, but that just made her more upset. She reminded me of all the times she'd been there for me, skipping family dinners for my panic attacks, staying with me in that gross hotel bathroom during our field trip, missing her cousin's wedding to be with me on the anniversary of my parents' death, and bringing me lunch when I forget mine. She told me she was tired of being my emotional support animal and that I take her for granted. She said I always put my problems above everyone else's. I got defensive and said babysitting was for an important job interview that could change our financial situation. And she looked at me like she didn't even know me. She told me it's exhausting being my friend. Then the bell rang and she just walked away, left me standing there feeling like the worst person on earth. That night, while doing dishes with Ellie, I told her what happened with Zoe. I was pretty much crying the whole time and expected her to be sympathetic. Instead, she was like, "That's just teenage drama. You'll make up by next week." I kept trying to explain how important this was to Zoe and how I felt terrible about letting her down. And that's when Ellie just snapped. She told me to try raising a kid at 20 while watching friends graduate college and travel Europe, then talk about disappointment. And then she told me something I never knew. Apparently, she had been dating her architecture professor, which sounds kind of sketchy to be honest, but whatever. And he wanted her to come with him to Barcelona after graduation for some big research position. He basically gave her an ultimatum, me or him. I actually found this weird Barcelona postcard in her drawer once when looking for scissors. It had this beautiful building on it, and she'd written "someday" on the back. I never understood what it meant until now. She went on this whole rant about how she hasn't been on a real date in years because who wants to date someone with a teenager and a toddler? She said she gets alumni weekend invitations from her architecture school every year, but never goes because she can't face seeing how successful all her former classmates are now. I realized in that moment that I've been trying so hard to please Ellie for years, always trying to be the perfect sister, never causing problems, taking care of Liam whenever she asks, never complaining about my room being a curtained-off dining area, all because I've always felt like I ruined her life. And apparently, I did. Everything completely exploded the next night at dinner. I was passing the salt to Ellie and accidentally knocked over my water glass. It shattered on the floor, and Liam immediately started screaming because the noise scared him. Ellie sighed this really heavy sigh and went to get paper towels. I kept apologizing and got down to help clean up the glass. "Just another mess I have to deal with," she muttered under her breath. Something in me just snapped. "I'll clean it myself," I said. "I gave up everything for you, and you can't even help with one interview without complaining," she said. "I never asked you to," I screamed back. And then, God, I can't believe I said this, but I yelled, "Maybe you should have let them put me in foster care." Liam started crying harder, and Ellie called me a spoiled brat, which she's never said to me before. I ran to my room and knocked over a chair on the way. I didn't even care. I spent all night crying and Googling options for moving out, but it's not like I can just leave. I'm 15. I have nowhere to go and no money. I know I should be grateful for everything Ellie's done for me. I know that. But finding out she resents me this whole time, that I ruined her entire life, that I'm just a burden she got stuck with. I've lost my best friend. My sister hates me. Everything is falling apart and I don't know how to fix any of it. Edit. To everyone saying I'm overreacting about Zoe, you don't get it. She was my only real friend, the only person who knows everything about me. We've been best friends since 4th grade, and I promised her I'd be there and then wasn't. I don't blame her for hating me. No, I can't just talk to Ellie and work it out. She basically told me she gave up her entire future for me. What am I supposed to say to that? Sorry I ruined your life by being orphaned. I feel sick every time I think about it. Someone asked about Liam's dad. He's still completely out of the picture. Sends money sometimes, but that's it. And yes, I know Ellie could have given me up for adoption or foster care instead of raising me. That's what makes me feel even worse. She chose me, and now she clearly regrets it. For people telling me I'm reading too much into what Ellie said, you weren't there. You didn't see her face when she talked about Barcelona. It was like seeing someone mourn a whole different life they could have had. And I'm the reason she didn't get that life. How am I supposed to just get over that? I'm not showing Ellie this post. I honestly don't think she'd care anyway. She's been coming home late every night this week and goes straight to bed after checking on Liam. We haven't really talked since the fight, except about basic stuff like, there's leftovers in the fridge, and can you switch the laundry? It's like living with a stranger. Now for the second update. It's been about 2 months since my last post when everything basically exploded in my face. So Ellie got that fancy job at the architecture firm. Yay, I guess. Our financial situation is slightly less terrible now. We can afford name brand cereal instead of the generic kind, which honestly does taste different no matter what people say. And Ellie finally replaced our ancient washing machine last week that had been making these terrifying death rattle noises for like over a year. Things with Zoe are weird. We talk at school now, at least. Sometimes we sit together at lunch and talk about homework or whatever teacher was being annoying that day. But it's all surface stuff, Nothing real. Nothing like before. I still have her favorite mechanical pencil that I borrowed last semester, and I keep meaning to give it back but can never find the right moment. Home is, I don't even know how to describe it. Technically better, but also worse. Ellie works longer hours at the new job, so we barely see each other anymore. She's usually gone before I wake up and comes home after I'm in bed most nights. When we do see each other, we're like super polite, like we're strangers or something. We talk about stuff like, did you do your homework? And we need more milk, but never about anything real. After I had this completely humiliating breakdown during a career planning session, my school counselor suggested family therapy. I literally started sobbing when she asked where I saw myself in 5 years. It was mortifying. When I mentioned the therapy thing to Ellie, she just said she doesn't have time with the new job. But she bought me this really expensive set of professional-grade sketching pencils. But we've never actually talked about all the stuff we said during that fight. It's just hanging there between us all the time. The other night, I got up to get water and overheard Ellie on the phone with her friend. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I swear. She was saying something about loving me, but sometimes wondering what her life would have been. I didn't hear the rest because I basically ran back to my room before I completely lost it. I've been trying so hard to be less of a burden since then. I do all the laundry now, cook dinner most nights, take Liam to the park on weekends so Ellie can have time to herself. Anything to make her life easier. Not that I'm looking for praise or whatever. I should be helping more, especially since I'm the reason she couldn't go to Barcelona and have an actual life. About Zoe. After weeks of her completely ignoring me, I wrote this whole letter apologizing and left it in her locker. After that, she started sitting with me at lunch again. But like I said, it's all just surface stuff now. She has this new friend group too, these theater kids who are rehearsing for the spring musical. She never actually invited me to join them or anything. Last week, she had another recital, and I sat in the very back this time. She played amazing as always, but I felt so weird being there, like I didn't belong anymore. So I left right after, instead of going to the little reception thing afterward. Zoe saw me leaving and ran over to thank me for coming, and we had this super awkward hug that felt more like a goodbye than anything else. I think that was the moment I realized our friendship is just permanently broken. My art has gotten a lot darker lately, really dark. My teacher actually scheduled a meeting with Ellie because she was concerned about some of my recent drawings. I managed to intercept the email and cancel it because the last thing Ellie needs is more stuff to worry about because of me. I've been spending lunch in the library researching colleges as far away from here as possible, just fantasizing about starting over somewhere new where nobody knows my whole sad backstory. I've also been secretly applying for this prestigious summer art program that would take me away for 6 weeks. I haven't told Ellie about it though, because I know she'd need me to help with Liam during summer break. I mean, I'm just trying to build a future for myself, right? But also, part of me knows I'm planning an escape instead of actually dealing with any of my problems. I've been having these nightmares about my parents' accident again, always the same. I wake up right at the moment of impact, and I'm always thinking in the dream if I hadn't been sick that day, because, yeah, it was literally my fault they were on that road. So last week, everything got really bad. Liam got this really high fever, and obviously daycare wouldn't take him. Ellie asked if I could miss school to watch him since she had this huge presentation. I said yes, but I was so resentful about it, which makes me feel like a terrible person. Of course I should help with Liam. Ellie does everything for us. But I had this big test in algebra and was going to have lunch with Zoe for the first time in forever, and it just felt so unfair that I always have to be the one sacrificing stuff. Anyway, I was cleaning up after Liam had an accident. He's mostly potty trained, but not when he's sick, and found this old photo album shoved in the back of the linen closet. It was all pictures of Ellie in college, with these amazing architecture models she'd built, hanging out with friends, and this guy who I'm pretty sure was her professor boyfriend. She looked so happy. like genuinely carefree in a way I literally never see her now. When Ellie came home that night, I had cleaned the entire apartment, made her favorite lasagna from scratch, and already put Liam to bed. His fever finally broke, thank God. She noticed the photo album on the coffee table and looked really upset, asking where I found it. I told her I found it while cleaning and apologized for snooping. Instead of getting mad, she just looked really sad and told me I didn't have to earn my place here. I completely lost it then and started crying. I told her I ruined her life. She could have been an architect, gone to Barcelona, and had a real life. I told her how I felt like a burden and that I know she resents having to take care of me instead of following her dreams. Ellie admitted that sometimes she does resent the responsibilities, but said she's never regretted choosing me. She told me I'm not a burden, I'm her sister, and her voice broke, which made me cry even harder because Ellie never cries in front of me. We cried together for the first time ever, instead of hiding in separate rooms. We had our first honest conversation in years that night. There's still a lot of stuff we didn't talk about, but it was a start. Ellie admitted she shouldn't have put so much adult responsibility on my shoulders and promised to look into family therapy options that would work with her schedule. The next day after school, I stopped by the music room and found Zoe practicing alone. Instead of apologizing again, I just told her I'd been a selfish friend who took way more than I gave. I said I'd understand if our friendship was over for good, but that I hoped maybe someday we could start fresh. Zoe told me her parents are getting divorced because her dad had been cheating for years, and her mom finally found proof. I realized Zoe's been dealing with her own huge issues while I was completely wrapped up in my drama. I felt like such an ass and told her I was sorry I wasn't there for her. She just said we both suck at asking for help. I took out my sketchbook and started drawing while she played. We just sat there in silence for about 20 minutes, doing our own thing, but together. Then Zoe started playing that piece from her solo performance, the one I missed. When she finished, I showed her my sketch of her playing with light around her, explaining that's how I always see her. She gave me an actual real smile for the first time in months. Nothing is magically fixed now. Ellie still works too much. Me and Zoe are building something new rather than going back to what we had before. I still feel guilty about my parents sometimes, but I'm starting to think maybe I'm not just a problem for everyone. And sometimes there are no right choices, just hard ones, and we're all just doing our best. I'm still applying for that summer art program, but I'm going to actually talk to Ellie about it instead of sneaking around. I'm realizing that growing up isn't about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to have the hard conversations.